I don't know what Nikki said. My name is Greg McManus. I'm a police officer in the city of St. Mary's. This is Anthony Pistner. He's also an officer of St. Mary's. On myself here, I've been a police officer for about 19 years now. I'm also part of the Northwest Municipal Drug Task Force through the State Attorney General's office. Between myself and Officer Pistner, we've conducted numerous drug investigations from here all the way down to Pittsburgh. So we've been doing it for quite a while. We've been doing drug education programs for quite a while. I have anyways. He's just starting. It's kind of like a Penn and Teller show. I talk, he just nods. Well, we're working him in now. But typically when we do drug education, it's usually, you know, you hear your drugs like heroin, cocaine, methamphetamines, ecstasy, that stuff like that. Stuff that has really been around for a very long time and is very simple to talk about with respect that there's a lot of information about it. It's been around for a while. Today we're here to talk to you about bath salts. Bath salts is very much a new drug. We as in law enforcement are really trying to play catch up here with this particular drug. It's very dangerous and just not good at all. Bath salts, what is it? Obviously it's not actually bath salts. It's not Calgon, as Tom said back there, put it in your bathtub. Not at all. It's very much different. Bath salts consist of what's called cathinones. And the street name for that is bath salts. It's very similar to methamphetamines and cocaine. It would be like taking a good hit of meth along with a good hit of cocaine, which is a very dangerous combination. I'll let you explain.
The whole bath salt thing, basically that was a name that people would come up with. It's just the one that stuck. You're going to hear everything from bath salts to plant fertilizer to insect repellent, cell phone screen cleanser, jewelry cleaner. For whatever reason, the bath salt one stuck. All those names were used because at one time this stuff was kind of sold in tobacco shops, head shops, stuff like that, and more or less just to skirt the Food and Drug Administration laws, basically, because as you'll see as we go into this a little further, on all these packages they'll write not for human consumption. It was just a loophole in marketing this stuff. Bath salts, this stuff was created back in the 1920s. There's a plant called the cat, K-H-A-T, and it grows over in China, Europe, somewhere over in there. It's kind of mixed on where it actually originated from. In the 1920s, some chemists, some scientists came up with synthetic versions of this drug, and starting in like 2002, 2004 over in Europe, somebody came across this stuff again, started producing it, and it's been popular over there since then. Now, somewhere around 2009, 2010, the stuff actually came back over to the U.S. But originally this stuff was just a synthetic version of this plant that grows over there, and obviously it's enhanced as well. Okay.
I was told that if I didn't learn how to say this word, that I would not be held credible and nobody would believe me. So, this is one of the ingredients in bath salts is MDPV, which is methylene dioxypyrovaleron. 35 letters. Long word. This is one of the illegal substances within the bath salt itself. It's just basically, it's one of the basic ingredients of it. It's a stimulant.
It's one of the ones that kind of started it and put this stuff on the map. That it was one of the major ones, the more popular one at the time. There's other ones now, but that's the one that kind of got this all started.
This is some of the product that we have actually taken here locally within St. Mary's. This is what they do is they'll buy it in bulk. Sometimes we'll get it by the kilo. And what they'll do is they'll repackage it for sale on the street. They're selling it right now for approximately $200 a gram. So they're making money. They're making anywhere from about $5,000 to $9,000 a week selling it here. But this is just some of the packaging. This right here, White Surge, as you can see, they label it as a massage powder. This particular packet you can buy right on the internet, have it shipped right to your house, post office box or whatever you use. There you go. 250 milligrams, you could probably buy this packet from anywhere from like $25 to $50 on different websites. But you can see how they kind of label it. Here's another one for massage oil or something like that, you mix it. I just want to point out that right here, not for human consumption. Okay, that's how they posted. Again, as Officer Pistner said, what they're basically trying to do is they're trying to skirt the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, so that's one less person trying to regulate this. They state that, and they put it all over their website, not for human consumption, but on the same page, they'll sit there and they'll give you a description of what it's going to do for you, how it's going to make you feel, and how their product is so great. It never mentions anything about a massage, you know, or how it'll keep the insects away or anything like that. It'll really kind of describe what kind of feeling it will give you and that their product's good. Here's another one, you got your insect repellent. Tiger blood bath salt. I'm sure some of you might remember the Charlie Sheen breakdown that he had on television when he said, I got tiger blood running through my veins. This is what he was on, right here. This is what he was referring to. That's why he was the way he was. Some various other packets. This is how we typically see it on the street. This is more or less a 1-inch by 1-inch type Ziploc baggie that they buy to package their product and sell it on the street once they receive it in the mail. Most of what we're getting around here is coming in from China. It goes through U.S. Customs without a problem and comes in the United States Postal Service directly to your home.
They're able to track
easy.
it, I guess. It's going from overseas and like they know what day they're getting it now. So,
Yeah, it's our informants tell us, you know, or he's supposed to be getting on this day's tracking on his cell phone, and it's going to be here on this particular day.
Question for you guys. When they consume this stuff, how much do they have to take or actually take when they get all blitzed out? Do they take the whole packet or they
Well, it depends on how much into it they are. If it's a first time, there's a lot of hype out there about how kind of scary this stuff is, even from the user's standpoint. So from what I understand, somebody that would be new would be more likely to take kind of just a test type thing, just a little bit, you know, and then we'll talk to you a little bit more about, you know, some people that they'll put it in their arms every 45 seconds to keep that rush. So it all depends. You're going from a lot depending upon the user and where he's at. This is really what it looks like. It comes in a powder form. It looks similar to like meth, cocaine, or something like that. Some of it you might see it's a little more crystallized. Some is more powder. It depends on the chemical composition and how they make it up. But that's what it generally looks at. It comes in a white type color. Sometimes it might be off-white. As we talked about earlier, this is a big marketing thing for them. You'll see it's incense, plant food, fertilizer, insect repellent, of course, bath salts. But what they're trying to do is, if you look at some of these packets, they're very brightly colored. They're trying to appeal to a younger clientele. You're looking at like your teens, late teens, maybe young adults, is what their marketing scheme is. They try to make it, I guess, look kind of cool for the kids. You know, they put it on there in the stores, and it looks really appealing to them, I guess. So that's really what they're trying to do. I'm going the wrong way on it. Okay. This is the various ways that you can take bath salts. Smoke it, inject it, take it orally, or snort it. Most of what we're seeing around here is kind of a mixture between smoking it and injecting it, believe it or not. We've been in contact with other task forces up in New York State area. They're getting hit very hard with these bath salts, and they kind of reached out to us as well. They're like, how are you guys seeing it being taken? And I said, well, you know, really we're seeing a lot of them inject it in their arms, and they're like, wow. You know, because everybody over there up in New York State, according to them, is they're smoking it. Now, we understand that you get a much better rush by using the needle. It's more direct, so that's why they prefer it.
Makes a pretty good mess if they miss too. Like they're getting pretty good sized abscesses and sores and stuff like that if they're missing their vein. I don't think. The one girl that I talked to, Greg and I both interviewed people. He interviewed somebody at the jail, and then I have basically we developed a friendship over some time. She was into this stuff, then got out of it, and I've kind of kept in touch with her. So we both kind of did separate interviews at different times on the two of them. One of the things that we talked about is that when she did miss, she said it burns like heck. And this girl's done it all. She's done heroin, coke, you name it, she's done it. She said this is.
What was surprising is when we conducted these interviews, neither one of these people knew each other. The person I interviewed, he was currently being housed in prison, and his was, I guess, out of state, so they had no idea who they were. So when we were done conducting these interviews, Anthony and I got together and we sat down to kind of compare our notes, and they were identical. I mean, it was amazing to me to see that, you know, when asking them questions about how to make you feel, you know, the different stages of the high and that sort of thing, they were pretty much right on point between the both of them. So that was pretty interesting. This is the effects. Fast heart rate, suicidal thinking, chest pains, agitation. I don't know if this is a good thing, but one of the things about bath salts is their users are very easily identifiable. Because when you approach a bath salt user, you'll know right away because they start doing this. You know, you're trying to talk to them and they're like moving around. You know, if you got so if you look at hair, they'll be going like this. And so, I mean, they're very much identifiable. You can see if they're high. I mean, you know, other ones they might just kind of, you know, be slow or something, but these people, you know it right away. The uncontrollable body movements. It's exactly like I was just doing this, and that's not an exaggeration. That's exactly how they are.
I mean, it's like a Picasso painting, but like it's an animal.
Oh yeah.
They contort in ways that you just.
And
Didn't
then,
think humanly possible.
Yeah, yeah.
well, we had to strap one to a chair, and because there was nothing but his hands and his feet and his tongue were the only things that were left to move, that's what he was doing. He was like a lizard. He was trying to he was trying to lift his forehead, his hands were going around, and his feet. So, I mean, even though you had him strapped, he was still trying to move.
Are these the desired effects or are these the bad effects? Is there anything good comes out of this?
I can tell you the good part. What they're telling us is, I guess what brings them back is that initial rush. They say within seconds, their veins feel like they're filled with adrenaline. They become clearer, energized, and they said it's just an undescribable rush to them. Now that rush only lasts for so many seconds before it starts to move into the next level of the high. His girl that he had interviewed, that he has had that friendship with, she had said that in order for her to maintain that desirable point within that rush, she had injected herself every 45 seconds with bath salts. So, I mean, to maintain that where she wanted to be.
She said as far as the use, she asked for how long. She said she would go often a week, 2 weeks at a time out without really sleeping. I mean, they would nod off a little bit for like an hour or two, but the only time they actually quit using, she was with her boyfriend at the time, was when they were out. They didn't have any more. And at that point, they would sleep for a couple of days till they had another load coming in. But like every 45 seconds. And one of the things, you know, we'll talk about it is after that is when the high comes. her and her friends, they all hated it. They hated the high. It was just the rush.
And the guy I had interviewed at the jail, he was scared to death of the high. Didn't like it at all.
Once
But-
the high starts, it's extreme paranoia, and it
The
starts.
rush is what they get out of it, and then after that is
Yeah.
the high.
Then
It's
the
the
one
high.
starts with the hallucination and the paranoia.
And that's why they continue to, ingest more bath salts. And that's the dangerous part of it. Because once you start to go into the high, they say that you start to see shadows. Everything starts to get very much dark and evil. And the shadow people basically starts out to where, they're like, oh, did you just see that? And you're standing in the room with them, it's like, I didn't see a thing. Oh yeah, just went by. It's not so bad, I guess. I mean, they're hallucinating, but it's not really vivid. But as they continue to ingest more bath salts and they're staying up for longer periods of time, for days on end without any sleep, these shadow people now become very real people. To where I'm looking at you right now, this is how they're looking at it. I mean, they'll be standing there and he's right next to you, and they're very adamant about it. And you're trying to tell them, there's nobody next to me. And he's like, he's right there, I can see it. And that's the danger of it, is because they're seeing this. And, it depends on what they're seeing. We don't know what they're seeing. They could be people after them, people with guns, people with knives, and now they're going to defend themselves against something that's not there. The extreme paranoia. I responded to a call of a person entering a house. It was a home invasion type call that came in. So, of course, we take that very seriously. We'll rush into the scene. I arrive. I get met by the door by this girl that's completely naked. I'm still having nightmares. Let me tell you. You can sympathize with me. The dangerous part about it is not only was she naked, but she was holding a gun in her hand. Thankfully, I was able to notice that it was a toy gun. It wasn't real, thankfully. I did retrieve the gun from her, get a sheet, put it over her, and then try to talk to her. And as I'm trying to talk to her, she's doing the whole moving thing, and right away, she's hot. So as I walk through her house, I'm checking her house because she's trying to take me around, showing me all these people that are, supposedly in her house, and I'm not seeing anybody, of course. I look around and I'm seeing all her windows in the house are nailed shut, screwed shut. They have cardboard on the windows. The paranoia is just so extreme. So that was just one example of what we're dealing with this drug.
Same woman, a couple days later. I wasn't there for the initial one, thank God. Back up there again, same deal, go through the house. She was in the bathroom, I think, because there was people after trying to get in. So we go through the house again. Again, there's knives and stuff all through the house. She even had night vision goggles, because there was people after like this. She had started ordering stuff like that online, and just so she could see these people who were outside the house. And
That's when I interviewed that guy at the jail. I had asked him that question. I should back up a little bit and tell you his story real quick, and I'm sure you've all read it in the newspaper, where we had that individual that had broke into this elderly gentleman's house. I think it was on Columbus Street. What had happened was he was high on bath salts. He was trying to make contact with this female in the vehicle in this elderly man's driveway. Well, there was no female in this car, but to him, he was legitimately seeing this girl in the car, and he was trying to open the door, and he's telling her to let him in, because there's people with knives and guns coming after him. And that's when the elderly man had yelled out to him. He sees him, looks up, runs to the house, and puts his fist pretty much through the window, and as he's trying to grab the doorknob, the old man grabs a knife out of the butcher block, and he's starting to stab him, and it wasn't stopping him. And what we've been finding here recently too is they're not feeling any pain at all. So he continued to do so, but when I asked him that question, I said, hypothetically, you're telling me that there's people with knives and there's people with guns and they're coming after you. What if you had access to a weapon? What if you had access to a gun? What would you have done, do you think? He said, I'd have protected myself. I'd probably tried to get that gun. So, I mean, that's what kind of sends the chills up my spine as far as what we're dealing with here. You know, they don't know what they're doing, what they're seeing, and now if they have access to weapons, now we're really in trouble. So, the next stage, you know, the hallucinations are really bad, combative and violent behavior. You know, when you start to go through those many days of sleep deprivation, you become very much unpredictable. We had that guy in Ridgeway. They found him. He blew his top. He was basically high on bath salts. Anything he could find, he was, you know, throwing chairs, throwing everything. Ended up in the middle of the road in his boxer shorts. Asked him what he was doing. He said he was swimming. Yeah, he wasn't happy when I told him pool break was. Didn't want to get out of the pool. It took about four or five cops to get him out of the pool. Yeah. So, but the problem was he's, you know, everything we tried to do with him, Officer Pistner was trying to really subdue him, and he wasn't feeling any pain at all. No matter what we did to him, he just didn't bother him a bit. And again, you'll get that increased body temperature. You'll see a lot of videos on YouTube if anybody's ever done any research on it. You know, they're naked, they're taking their clothes off because they're hot. And we probably should mention that one you had in the back seat of the patrol car.
Yeah, one of the more animated ones I'd ever seen. We responded to a guy's house. Long story short, probation wants him. So we take him into custody. I put him in the car, and he's sitting back there 1 second, and I turn around to talk to him. He's drenched, covered in sweat, like there's actually, like within seconds, puddles on the seat of my car. I'm like, holy cow, are you okay? I'm starting to, what are you doing in my back seat? And he's like, you gotta call an ambulance for me. I think I'm dying. Flying on the radio, call the ambulance, everybody. You gotta help me. But one thing that was odd about it in him and other people that I've seen, he became totally open about everything he had done. This is how I took it. This is when I took it. How much? How often I take it. He was really concerned he was going to die. Now we've had people where they don't really open up. Like, but for a lot of people, it almost seems like a truth serum. Like they kind of spill the beans on everything they've done. It's strange.
And they seem to recall that they're having memory recall because we've talked to them days later and they remember it. I mean, in their memory, they remember seeing an actual person like in that car. So, you know, we kind of have to watch when we make fun of them when they're doing
My friend, the one who's done it all, this is the only one where you can get totally out of your mind high and remember everything that's happened. Like you don't forget it.
No, that's just short term. I mean, we're still, this is
Right.
still so very new that we don't know what the long-term effects are going to be yet. We kind of discussed a lot of this, the user report. Basically, this is what they're saying that they're feeling: euphoria, increased hostility, improved mental functioning, sexual stimulation. I don't know if that's true or not. The one kid's room we went into, he was one of our repeat callers. I mean, he would call us all the time. There's somebody trying to get in my house, there's somebody outside, that type of thing. We would go out there with 6 inches of snow, and it's obvious that there was nobody in there. So we would go in, check his house, and we walk into his one room, and there was porn everywhere.
Every inch of the walls,
Every
like
inch
all
of the
4
walls.
walls.
And,
Been busy there, buddy.
and it was a garbage bag full of condoms.
Yeah.
It was never seen. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But he also, interesting enough, he also would have his needles pre-ready, pre-done. He
He
had
colored the tips of them because he would get different versions of this stuff, which we haven't hit on yet about how many different versions of this is out there. But when he would order them, he would order different kinds, and he actually colored the tips of them. I forgot to mention that before.
Yeah.
But
he had all the
what he was
needles
after
ready and
that day.
prepared to inject, and he just had them all lined up there.
Hold on 1 second.
Sure.
This 19-year-old Florida boy was never charged with a crime, but police say he's under the influence of a cheap, widely available, supercharged speed, commonly called bath salts.
I think this kid was a normal kid walking around maybe the week before.
A potpourri of constantly changing chemicals that have nothing to do with your mother's actual bath products. Instead, these inexpensive synthetic drugs create a condition police have come to call excited delirium that makes users paranoid, violent, and unpredictable. Police suspect bath salts are behind the face-eating fatal attack on an innocent Miami man.
But you gotta chill out a minute.
And perhaps behind this growling suspect's unwillingness to surrender.
I've certainly heard about people with extraordinary strength, and we've seen that with PCP in the past.
Bath salts are actually closer to synthetic methamphetamine and cocaine, dramatically increasing dopamine levels in the human brain two dangerous ways: by pouring more dopamine in as meth does, and at the same time, like cocaine, trapping it in the brain, so the user doesn't come down.
It would be like taking a very powerful methamphetamine and a very powerful cocaine at the same time.
Congress has been asked to ban the concoction, but can't agree on a bill. So the DEA issued a temporary ban that expires in just 6 months, an effort to protect police officers confronted by combative suspects high and strong beyond belief. Jim Avila, ABC News, Washington.
Brings out a good point. That first individual that they had shown screaming in the back of the patrol car, they said he was arrested. He wasn't arrested for anything. This is the challenge before us, before law enforcement. This drug, these chemists, these street chemists, they're very smart. They know what they're doing. And I had spoke to one of the state police chemists at our lab here locally, and they're constantly changing the chemical composition by, maybe one molecule. So it's continuously trying to pull it apart, figure out what it is, and try to make it illegal. So what they've done so far is they have 3 of the different drugs, that MDPV, methadone, and methylone, as the 3 different substances that they've actually come out with the law on. So any part of that, bath salts has any one of those 3 in there, it is a Schedule I illegal narcotic. Problem is like I said, these chemists are very smart. They continuously are changing the makeup of it. So as I was talking to him at the lab, he said everything they're getting is legal. So they have yet to get anything that I know of that they've tested that's been coming back as illegal, at least here anyways. So this is the problem. So when we come in contact with these people and they're starting to act like that, and that's not an exaggeration, we get that.
The guy in the back of the police car, the guy in the ridge the other night when he put that bill, it was exactly like him.
Yeah.
Exactly how he was acting.
Now the challenge is what do we do with them? We got to try to hopefully be able to say that this person's a danger to himself or to others, but we can't arrest him for the substance itself. And I think that's why we're starting to see more and more of these bath salts out there, because it's legal, it's very easily attainable, and not only that, people that are on probation or state parole, it doesn't come up in a urine test, and they know this. So this is very, very appealing to them. Cops can't do anything about it. The K9 search dogs can't find it. Probation won't ever catch them. So this is a good deal.
I have a question. Did you say that there's methadone?
Methylone and methadone,
Okay.
I think is what it's called. Sorry, I don't know. Did I say methylone?
From Boston, it's not his fault.
Yeah, it's. As far as treatment, people here, we spoke to a lot of nurses, doctors earlier today. Unless there's something I don't know, there are no guidelines to treating these people, and they seem to be, at least from what my research tells me and from talking to people, sedatives don't seem to work well. You need to use either a real lot of them, or you have to basically give them straight anesthesia to get them put out. We had one paramedic, I think, that earlier that said he just kept giving it to her because it just wasn't helping. She was still out of control. So they kept having to give them heavy sedatives and stuff like that to try to calm them.
First couple times, I think we dealt with it in, I don't remember who, but when the ambulance got there, I've actually seen them try to do Narcan, which didn't touch it, and that didn't, so they don't try that anymore. But, you know, it's just a trial and error.
Do they combo this drug with anything that is illegal? Have you found that?
They do not. We have not run into that yet. That was another question somebody asked earlier. Are they cutting it with any sort of other sort of illegal agents or something like that? And no, we're not seeing it. Not at all. The physical symptoms do resolve after so much time from what we see. You know, they will come down, they will calm down. The problem with this drug is that the psychotic effects, the hallucinations, they may come back later. And that's what's happening is you may come off of this physically and you calm down, and then 2 days later these hallucinations come right back. There's a story of a 21-year-old, I think I brought it up later on, but from other areas within the country that the people are dealing with it, mostly down south. I think it was Kentucky or Tennessee or something like that. But he had taken Cloud 9, it was called. It was a bath salt. First time ever taken it. Took I think it was a 250 milligram packet or something like that. Went into the hallucinations. He was sitting in his kitchen sink, and you might have heard this, I think it was actually on CNN. He was sitting in his kitchen sink, and he was looking out the window. His father was right beside him, and he's looking, he's seeing all these police cars and police helicopters converging on his house. And as he was sitting there, his father describes that he was actually counting all the police cars and telling them how many were outside. And what he had done is once he started becoming extremely paranoid about the police moving in, he quickly grabbed a knife out of the butcher block, sliced his throat from ear to ear, right beside his father. Now, thankfully, his father was a doctor, mother was a doctor. He survived that injury. It was very much superficial, I guess. They sewed him up and he was okay. Took him to the hospital, got him to calm down, was getting him off of it. He just like Officer Pistner said, he was very truthful about what he did. You know, he told him it was Cloud 9, it was bath salt, how much he did, how he ingested it. So they got him treatment, they released him. 2 days later, I believe it was, the hallucinations returned. And during the night when his father was actually in bed, sleeping right beside him to making sure he was okay, he must have snuck out of bed during the evening, went into his bedroom, got a rifle and shot his head, blew his head, because the hallucinations came back and he was scared. So this is something that is obviously something that's ongoing, that as far as the research to see, you know, how long. They're saying sometimes, you know, you might end up on a psychotic medication for a long period of time. This is just basically to show you how quickly it is rising. 2009, you know, Poison Control Centers had 0 calls. 2010, 300. 2011, more than 6,000. So you can see how quickly this stuff is becoming popular. A couple anecdotal reports. That one of the 21-year-old we just spoke about, a woman from Virginia that basically scratched herself to pieces because she kept believing that there was things under her skin. Then there was another one here with the guy that slashed his face and stomach. But again, to these people, this is very real. This stuff is very easy to access, comes right to your house. And again, this is such a new drug, we're really all still trying to get an understanding and grasp on it. But that's about all we have. And I'm sorry to keep you here longer because of our delay. Is there any questions anybody might have?
You said these are synthetic. Are there people like cooking them up around here like they would meth?
No, there's no actual like recipe for it. This is. Like I said, our chemists are still having a hard time trying to pull apart to figure out how to put it together. There's nothing out there like meth would be. You know, you could actually go online, get a recipe of how to make meth, what types of materials to use. Nothing like that at all. From what we understand from what we're getting, none of it's coming from the United States. It's all coming from China and the UK. And then once it gets to the United States, then they're kind of filtering it out from there. But yeah, there's nothing out there that I know of like that.
You said it goes right through customs. Customs can't stop it because it's not illegal, correct?
Right.
No matter how it's made.
Right. Yeah.
That must piss them off.
Oh, it's yeah. They're trying to keep tracking with it where it's going, stuff like that. But yeah, it's legal. You know, our lab, like I said, they're saying everything they've tested thus far has been legal.
While we were researching to put this together, I kept asking Greg too to see if he was finding anything. We have 3 that's banned. Pennsylvania has those 3 that he mentioned that are banned. I was wondering, like, I wonder how many there are. Like, can they just make a list and ban them all?
They keep changing.
You can't find a list. If you go to these websites to see what you want to buy, they won't list them all. Like, there's just so many of them. Each website has different versions of it on there. So they say anyways. It's basically going to have, for our end of things, we're going to have to come down with some kind of vague wording.
A catch-all.
A catch-all to try to do this, because if they continue just to have us act on the list, what's specifically listed, we can't keep up with it. You know, that's coming from the chemists who are testing it.
Is it like heroin though? Is it addictive? I mean, I've heard from heroin addicts that as soon as they get to that high, they need it again before you even start down.
Well, that's another, like I said, a fairly appealing thing about this drug is there is no sickness. Like heroin users, if they come down off of heroin, they become deathly sick. With bath salts, it's not that way. When they come off of it, the only thing they're feeling is tired because they've been up for days. Now, when I did talk to that individual in the jail, he said the other difficulty he was having is eating solid food. He said it had been so long since he had any solid food that he had to like start out very slow, trying to eat again. He said when he was taking it for days and days and days on end, he said once in a while he'd force himself to drink some like chocolate milk or something like that because he knew he needed something, but he just had no appetite. So, but there is no sickness with it.
And it's not addictive. They can come off of it and not want it again?
I don't know about that.
When I talked to my friend, she said that her thing was she ended up kind of getting addicted to the needle. Like she wanted to use a needle more so than the drug. Like it was easier when she ended up moving away. It was easier for her to get rid of the dope that she had than it was like one of the last steps she had before she really committed to being clean was getting rid of her rig, she called it, her stuff for using. So that was, but she said that, because I asked about cravings, she's like, not so much, not really.
How do they learn how about taking the stuff? Is it just like friend show friend, or they just read up on it? Or?
Yeah, you can talk to most of the users are users of other drugs as well, so they have a good idea of how to do it anyways. But they have, Anthony had found they have, like TripAdvisor, you talk about hotels and stuff. Well, they have their own TripAdvisor where they basically tell you how they did it, the process of it, and they give you like a minute by minute thing. Okay, I'm at this point now. Oh, okay, I'm starting to feel the high, and this is, but they tell you exactly how they smoked it or ingested it,
Yeah.
how they
When they ingest it, they shoot it up in that, they boil it, they cook it, or?
No, this stuff doesn't need to be. Heroin, typically, that's why you see like the burnt spoons.
Yeah.
Heroin, you had to, in order to be able to pull it into the needle, you had to mix it with water. You had to heat it up and then pull it in order for it to mix. This stuff will mix with cold water. You can just mix it right up and pull it right into the needle.
Find the bent spoons all over, they don't have the burn marks, there's very little residue on them anymore, like even when they're doing the pills and stuff, you always see like the white crust, and they're pretty much clean spoons.
Oh.
Any other questions?
Now, the young man that was in the back of that car that was having that paranoia, are you saying that he would actually go back and do this again in 2 days?
Yeah.
Even after that? I mean, he remembers it all.
Yeah.
Why? Why did you do that? Well, why would you do that? Yeah. I mean, because that's a horrible, horrible
we ask
feeling.
ourselves that same question all the
And
time.
what do they say? What do they say?
They just describe what they were seeing. I don't know if you noticed when you could see that you could see he was looking.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was seeing something,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they described what they saw. Like when I interviewed that guy, I'd asked him about that night. He told me all about it. He remembered it vividly. He remembered us showing up there. He remembered what what we had told him, asked him to do. But he also remembers his hallucinations he had. So it wasn't like it wasn't like it never happened to him, he thought all about it or something like that, he knew.
And he knew that if he was gonna do it again, it'd be scared to death again, but he didn't care because he wanted to.
That's the big thing.
Any sign of it in the school?
We were asked that earlier today too. Not yet. We have not had any reports of it in the schools yet. We talked to probation parole. From what we know, I mean, everything's been coming in late teens to, more young adults. We did have a few guys that are in their 50s doing it, but, nothing as of yet. So we did have, do we have anybody from the school here today? Tonight? You guys? How about you here? You from?
I was from Jeff Tech.
Jeff
So I
Tech?
haven't heard anything.
I haven't heard anything yet. And you're from ECC? Nothing? Yeah, we haven't, nothing as of yet, and hopefully, it remains that way. So I'm hoping that with the information of how scary the actual high is, that will, keep them from trying it. But, I don't know, let's hope. I'll be honest with you, this is the first program we've done on bath salts. Nikki had asked us, there was some interest in it, so we kind of put this together. I suspect that now that we did this, there might be some requests later, and we'll be happy to do it, but, so, this thing is so new. I'm sure we'll get it eventually, though.
I went to training one time and the guy told us that if we want to, be knowledgeable in new drugs that are going to be coming in to study the UK, because the UK is 5 years ahead of us, and that bath salts over there have been over there.
Yes.
And one of my patients just recently told me that they were on the UK website, and a new drug that is out is called crop balancers, which is not like this, but it's more geared towards the heroin, the synthetic heroin, and what they're doing to these people now. It's not here yet.
No, that's accurate, though. They are ahead of us. It has been over there for quite a while before it actually reached us. So that's right.
Is there a smell to this stuff? Like if they open a packet, you
Smells
can...
horrible.
Bad.
Oh, really?
It smells horrible.
So it's not like incense, like people say, oh, it's just incense,
No, it has a really bad smell to it, and it's funny, when you go to these websites, if you were looking, when we were researching it, or maybe you wanted to buy it, they have those trip reports, and they'll be on there, open the pack, like, it's so detailed in there. I printed one off, and it's an open forum, like a blog, people respond to it, and they'll go through back and forth, so I opened the package, got it this day, was all excited, took it at this time, weather was like this, and smell was bad, left a bad taste in my mouth. It depends on how they do it, how long their nose dripped afterwards from taking it, and like medical terms and stuff in there, like they really get into these reports that they put out. But some of the stuff we've come across
It smells really bad. We're trying to test it in the office. We do have test kits for it, but according to the chemists, they wouldn't put a lot of stock into them. I mean, the stuff that we're buying on the street, they're telling us it's this, which is a legal product. I'm taking it back, I'm testing it, it's not coming up negative, but it's coming up for the illegal product. So we're actually waiting for the test results to come back from the lab on that to see if indeed it is illegal or what.
Even some of the testing's trying to catch up. About 2 years ago, I arrested a kid for DUI. Long story short, I end up having contact with him, get him out of the car. He has no idea what's going on. He thinks he's in Johnsonburg. He can't do any field sobriety. Yeah, all of it. I mean, he was a mess. Take him out to the hospital, and I didn't smell any alcohol on him. So we have kits, and then we'll send him off to another lab. They do very extensive testing into the drugs, because I had no idea what he was on. Sometimes you might find something on him if they have heroin or whatever. He had nothing. Sent the lab, the blood away, results come back, nothing. He had nothing in the system. I have no idea to this day. I suspect it was something like this. I'm going to guess it's probably the first time that I've ever had contact with somebody that was like that. Now, he was animated, but not like the full-blown crazy like the guy in the police car. But like I said, he didn't even know where he was at.
So legally, you can't even arrest him for DUI.
No. You can stretch it, but
that was kind of an unusual situation. I was actually out with another vehicle at the time, and I guess this guy had been all over the road, was coming up the road. The guy was behind him. He's like, well, I'm going to get around him before he wrecks in front of me. So he passes him, and as he passes him coming into St. Mary's, they actually come up Jonesburg Road here. He saw me, and the guy stopped to report this clown behind him. And when he stopped, this guy was, I could tell he was out of it right away. He comes sliding to a stop, just smoke off the tires, and he's like, you need to deal with this guy. He's drunk or something. So I'm like, yeah, both of you, pull over. I didn't know what was going on. Like, what are you stopping in the middle of the road? What's the matter with you? So we get to talking to him, and of course, like, well, like I said, he didn't know what was going on. And so that situation, I kind of had an issue. I didn't see him drive. I saw him drive, but I didn't see his actions. I can't testify that he was all over the road. I would say that maybe had I seen him, saw that he was all over the road, maybe, you know, whatever he was doing, almost hitting oncoming cars, I could have talked to the district attorney about it and said, listen, it would have come down to my experience, my testimony, that even though his blood results come back as nothing, he was under the influence of something, I just don't know what. So there's a section in DUI that we oftentimes use, just a general impairment. And it more or less would have come down to my testimony that, yeah, he was clean as far as the blood test was, but with his driving and his manners and stuff, once I got him out of the car, he shouldn't have been driving. But that was kind of a off color situation. Yes.
That article that was in the paper about the Emporium, the mother that got intercepted the shipment for her son, what can they actually arrest him for if that is not illegal?
Well, it's actually something that I'm working on just recently, and talking to our DA and actually the Cameron County DA and actually different prosecutors. There is a section in Pennsylvania under the drug laws, it's called the Designer Drug Act. What this basically takes is, it only applies if you're basically manufacturing or delivering it. So as a simple user of it, if we catch somebody with a small amount, there's really not a lot we can do. If they're dealing it, or if you have an amount that you could say he's likely going to deal it, you know, if you have that case to pursue that he is a dealer of it, it basically takes a chemist to come down, an expert in drugs, to say that, okay, it's not controlled, but it is so close in chemical makeup and the effects that it has on that person that it basically is a controlled substance. But it's new. It's nothing we have done yet, and I don't think that they have one through court yet, but we got to do something. Is basically what this is coming down to.
The Designer Drug Act is anything that's not a controlled substance, any other drug that's not controlled. However, if it mimics another drug, then it can be considered a designer drug. And this stuff is so close that we just need somebody as an expert to testify to it. So that's what we're hopefully going to try to do here. Loophole. Any other questions?
Oh, you got more than that.
What have the healthcare facilities been doing to sedate these people? You know, Versed, you can give Versed, that calms them down for a little bit, but after a while, it doesn't do nothing.
The other one, Adderall?
Haldol.
Haldol. I've heard of that quite a bit.
Ativan, that's keep them snowed. How long do they usually got to keep them snowed for? How long does it stay in the system? Do you have any idea?
This is the we don't know yet. So that's what they're still trying to figure that whole thing out. There's still research in place trying to figure out how long lasting this goes. And like I said, the physical effects may come down within a day or so, but the hallucinations and the paranoia, you know, the psychotic end of it seems to come back days later. Wow. So it's still being researched at this point, and there's still no data out there to say.
So once they take that stuff, they're considered unstable because they could have flashbacks anytime.
Sure can.
Wow.
Yes, they can. Yeah.
When we first started running into it, and even now, a lot of times we don't even know what to do with it. There was, when it first started coming to where we were getting calls, and I said these people are, it's almost like a truth serum. A lot of them call the police on themselves because they think people are after them, so they call for help.
Yeah.
Well, there was a house that this friend of mine and her boyfriend were living there. We'd go up there 2-3 calls a shift because there was people breaking in. we didn't know what to do with them. I couldn't 302 them, couldn't bring them here because they were hallucinating, but they weren't trying to harm themselves or other people. Although, the one time I go up and they're like, they're down in the basement, they're down in the basement. Oh, I go down the basement, flashlight, looking around, and hear the door close behind me.
What not to do?
So I go down, of course there's nobody down there, and I go back up and I go to open the door and it's locked. Open the door. They're like, who is it? It's me. Who is it? So I told them who I was, and I'm like, you better open the door now, because I'm about ready to kick it in. They open the door, she's standing there with a knife. Oh, we didn't know who was down there. Well, now you do, give me the knife. So, but she said they would sleep with it under their pillows. You know, they had knives all throughout the house. Well, I didn't know what to do with them. Because they, like I said, they weren't making comments of harming themselves or others, so
And some of
leave
these,
and then go back another 2 hours. You know?
and some of these people have children that are,
Yeah.
wait till they see them as a boogan.
Yeah, there's lots of stories about that too. But that's the danger too. I mean, you talk about resources and manpower, we're constantly running to calls like this. I mean, and some of them are very serious calls, like the home invasion. So you're trying to run here with this, something else you could be doing. So it is.
So even on ambulance calls, we get suspicious actions or something. Might as well have you guys respond with every call then, now.
All right, 90%.
Or they can just give you a danger.
Yeah. You can call 10 minutes. My shit's done.
You better wait till after 11.
We'll make them walk out of the house first.
All right. All right.
Does it, have you had to tase anybody with that has been on it?
Not yet.
No. What I was reading on the internet, sometimes they're saying that it seems like it doesn't have an effect. I'll be honest, we've both been trained on the taser. I don't know if I buy into that. I'm thinking that maybe they didn't have a good contact with it, because this
doesn't, it'll interrupt your central nervous system.
Yeah,
so
it's
I
not
don't know how
just
it
straight.
works.
Stand up.
It's not straight. I used to have a video, but when I got hit, it had a bad word in it, so I don't. It's not, and it, like I said, not only does it hurt, but it's not just pain compliance. It just overrides your nervous system. So I don't know about, I don't know if I buy it. I'm thinking that maybe they didn't have good contact with it or something. I don't know.
Do we find more pill form around this area, or just the powder?
Mostly all powder. I have seen a little bit of pill form where they actually buy the capsules themselves and they'll put it in there and sell it that way, but it's not that much. Mostly it's all powder. Want us to go with you?
Good class.
Hope you don't need help down there.
We need all kinds of help there.
We need all kinds of help.